Hey, Anna. Hand over your card. I've maxed out mine, so I can't use it anymore. What? There's no way I'm giving it to someone who blows through money like you. Ever since my wealthy father passed away, my husband has been uncontrollably splurging, delighted by the inheritance coming in. Don't be so stingy. We're gonna get a huge inheritance soon anyway. He must think he's become some kind of oil tycoon. Fed up with his attitude, I decided to reveal a certain truth to him. I'm not actually related to my father by blood. I'm my mother's child from another marriage. So, not a penny of my father's inheritance will come to me. At that, my husband, who had been lounging arrogantly on the couch, sat up abruptly, a look of shock on his face as he stared at me. What? Why have you kept something so important a secret until now? Then what happens to the massive inheritance? His face went pale, and the next words out of his mouth were, I have no intention of staying with a broke and unattractive woman. Let's get a divorce. This decision of his would come to strangle him, as he would come to greatly regret it the following day. My name is Anna, I'm 37 years old. I lived alone during my college days, but returned home when I landed a job at a local company, and now live with my mother and father. I work in the human resources department, and although it's busy, I don't face much stress and live a rather ordinary life. I didn't have any particular hobbies, but after being invited by a coworker, I got into golf and even started attending a members-only golf lesson introduced by my father. I never knew, but my father's golf skills are on par with a professional's, and I was very surprised at his prowess when we played a course together. My interest in golf seemed to make my father very happy, and lately, we've been going out to practice together on his days off, enjoying the game. In fact, this golfing led to a good relationship. There's an older man who attends the same lessons, named John. When we met, I could never have imagined that he would later become my husband. He works for a medium-sized company, just an average guy. Not poor, but not wealthy either. However, he's sincere with everyone, treating me with kindness too. Anna, would you like to go out for dinner after the lesson sometime? I'd like to go golfing together too, let's plan it. That sounds great, definitely. Our relationship began naturally after meeting up more frequently following the lessons. Truth be told, I had never been in a relationship before and was quite passive about love, but I found it easy to talk with John. Honestly, I don't think there could be a more perfect match for me. He's not flashy, but he values stability and lives a serious life, which I find incredibly attractive. Gradually, I was drawn to him, and I accepted his proposal. When I told my parents about our marriage, my dad was overjoyed, saying, now we can all go golfing together. Both of them happily approved of our marriage. Since we started our married life, we haven't had a single argument and have enjoyed our time together golfing, and just like that, 10 years have flown by. Unfortunately, we were not blessed with children, but we agreed that we should enjoy our life together nonetheless. Lately, we've not only been golfing but also enjoying traveling together as a couple. I never doubted that we would continue to spend our retirement years happily together, but tragedy struck unexpectedly. My parents were involved in a traffic accident while returning home from shopping. By the time I arrived at the hospital, they were already gone. According to the police, they were hit by a car that ran a red light and died instantly. I couldn't believe I had lost the two most important people in my life at the same time and sat in a daze on a sofa in the hospital lobby, waiting for my husband and relatives to arrive. Eventually, the day turned to night, and the once noisy lobby quieted down. Then, I saw my husband coming towards me from a different entrance, walking quickly. Anna. I'm sorry for being late. Have the other family members not arrived yet? And how are your father and mother? He must have rushed over from work, his breathing heavy and his shoulders heaving. Unable to meet his gaze directly, I looked away and shook my head. They were already gone when they were brought to the hospital. It's all so sudden, I can't wrap my head around it. I don't know what I'm supposed to do now. My husband gently embraced me as I sobbed. It's okay, Anna. Knowing your father, I'm sure he's left you a proper inheritance. So you don't have to worry about anything. Inheritance. It's not the money I'm worried about. I just never thought they would pass away so soon. I can't imagine life without them, and I can't accept it yet. I shared with my husband the raw emotions I was feeling. Of course, there are a mountain of things to do now, like the funeral and complicated procedures. But for now, I just wanted my husband to understand and comfort me. However, he uttered something unbelievable. Well, I get how you're feeling right now. But from my point of view, this accident is like a windfall. What? Did I hear that right? Wait, what did you just say? So I said it's like hitting the jackpot. I've been waiting for this moment ever since marrying Anna. It's been so long. Over 10 years of waiting, and they've finally passed. Now I can say goodbye to that crappy company and live it up. John continued, laughing as if he had been freed from something. Is this John? My calm and serious husband? The John the first know is a kind person who would cry with me in times like this. Not someone who would bring up inheritance right after my parents passed away. I was quite panicked by the situation. So, let me ask again, how much are we talking about from the inheritance? Your dad must have saved a lot of money. Plus, that house is in a great location and it's huge. With a little renovation, it could sell for a good price, right? John, what are you talking about? I'm talking about the inheritance. How much do you think it will be? I don't know right now. Did you marry me just for my parents' inheritance? I asked, trying to make sense of the situation despite my turmoil. Obviously. Who else would marry someone like you? You didn't think, even for a moment, that I approached you for money? John said dismissively, laughing at me. I was speechless at my husband's cruel words. So, how much is it? He kept asking about the inheritance, his eyes shining with greed. Indeed, my father was a well-known wealthy man in the area, respected by many. Though a bit away from downtown, he owned a lot of assets including land, real estate, and mountains. However, we had never discussed such matters before getting married, or even after our marriage was decided. John, when did you find out about my father's inheritance? I asked my husband, trying to hide the tremble in my voice. Of course, before we got married. Remember? When I was at that golf lesson with your dad, he told me directly. As soon as we talked about asset management, he spilled everything, from the lands he owned to everything about his daughter Anna. He bragged about it so much that I was convinced it was a good opportunity. So, you approached me because of that. What other reason could there be? Have you ever looked at yourself in the mirror? Your lack of dating experience until the age you met me speaks volumes. Even if I was after the money, you should be glad you got married at all. I could feel my blood boiling with each word he said. My husband married me, not out of love, but for the inheritance, waiting eagerly for my father to pass away. The anger towards my husband's scheme and the shame of not seeing his true colors sooner made me feel like I was about to cry again, but I desperately held back. Crying now would feel like losing to this terrible man. I get it, John, I understand your plan, so please, no more. I don't know how much we will get from the inheritance. Right now, my head is full of my dad and mom, so let's talk about this when things have settled down. My husband looked displeased, but only replied with a got it. After that, busy days continued with arranging the funeral and dealing with bureaucratic procedures. There was so much to do that I had no time to mourn my parents' deaths. When things finally settled down, the urns and a photo of my smiling parents were placed in the house, and looking at them, I finally felt the reality of their passing. I cried my heart out in front of the altar. Meanwhile, my husband, without any consideration for my feelings, was overjoyed at the prospect of the inheritance and started living a lavish lifestyle on his own. He began by purchasing the luxury car he had always wanted. The day after my parents died, while I was overwhelmed with various procedures, he apparently went to the car dealership, and I found the contract copy at home. The car hadn't been delivered yet, but he was already boasting about it to his coworkers and friends. Then, the nightlife and extravagant spending at high-end restaurants that he had probably been holding back on began. He stopped taking the lunches I made for him to work, choosing instead to eat at quite expensive places for lunch. Moreover, he started coming home after midnight every day, and on his days off, he went out more often, making his presence at home rare. Today, as he was getting ready to go out somewhere from the morning, he suddenly turned to me as if he remembered something. "Hey, Anna. Give me your card. I've maxed out mine, so I can't use it anymore." "What? You maxed out your limit? Unbelievable. There's no way I'm giving it to someone who spends like that. Oh, scary. Don't be so stingy. It's fine, right? We're gonna get a huge inheritance soon anyway." He must think he's become some kind of oil tycoon. Fed up with his attitude, I decided to reveal a certain truth to him. "You know, John, I never told you this, but..." "Oh. Finally gonna tell me how much the inheritance is? Don't beat around the bush, just tell me." "I'm not actually related to my father by blood. You get what I mean?" At that, John, who had been lounging arrogantly on the couch, sat up abruptly, a look of shock on his face as he stared at me. My mom was divorced, and she remarried to my dad. I was her child from another marriage, so there's no blood relation between me and my dad. That means I won't get a penny of the inheritance. What? Why have you kept something so important a secret until now? Then what happens to the massive inheritance? I don't know. Probably my dad has several siblings, so it'll likely be divided among them. It seems like you had a misunderstanding, John, but you're gonna have to figure out how to pay for that maxed out card on your own, okay? No way! This has to be a lie! John's face went pale. He struggled to accept the reality that there would be no inheritance. I gave a lot of cash to Alice. She said she was moving out to live on her own, you know. For the initial costs, furniture. Wait, who's Alice? I was confused by the sudden mention of this person. It's obviously my affair partner. John, unsettled by the news of no inheritance, revealed his infidelity. And why didn't you tell me something this important? You could have at least had the decency to tell me after my parents passed. My husband started yelling and blaming me, which just made me disgusted. It hadn't even been that many days since my parents died, and here he was, spending extravagantly. But well, with this card's limit, I can barely scrape by. It would have been bad if I'd made one more big purchase. I had my eye on this watch. Man, that was close. Safe, safe, he said, checking the card statement on his phone, seemingly relieved. It seemed he had narrowly avoided a disaster. This makes no sense. Marrying a wealthy man's daughter and it comes to nothing. No money, and stuck with someone ugly. I have no use for you anymore. Does that mean you want a divorce? Yeah, that's right. He laughed at me as if mocking. Seeing him like this, I felt deeply sad that my entire marriage had been built on lies. There was no point in continuing a marriage with someone whose true character was now clear to me. His offer was actually a relief. Fine, I agree to the divorce. Continuing this loveless life is just empty. However, I demand alimony for your affair and that you waive any claim to assets. Since you confessed to the affair, that's only fair. I don't care. If it means I can get away from you a second sooner, any condition is cheap. We can go to the courthouse right now and file for divorce if you want. True to his word, we went straight to the city hall and quickly finalized the divorce. When we got back home, he packed his things and left for Alice's place. I didn't bother to see him off, I just listened to him leave. The next day, I went to my parents' house. It was hard to go to the now empty house, but there were things like sorting through my parents' belongings that I had to take care of. Plus, ever since the day my parents passed, my mind had been in turmoil, and I thought sorting things out might help me organize my thoughts a bit. My current home was only a short drive from my parents' house. I arrived, took a deep breath before touching the doorknob, and then opened the door. I'm home. A week ago, my mom would have greeted me with "Welcome back, Anna," but now, the room enveloped in silence naturally offers no such response. The last time I was here was a few days before my parents' accident. It feels like a distant memory, even though it was so recent. I looked around the room to calm my heart before starting to sort through their belongings. Beginning with the dresser in my parents' room on the second floor. I remember my mom once telling me that important things were kept in the dresser and to look there first if anything happened to us. At the time, I was shocked to hear her say such a thing and brushed it off, but now that something had happened, it felt all too real. I checked the dresser from top to bottom. It was so neatly organized that there was hardly a need for sorting, with documents related to contracts and expensive-looking jewelry laid out. There were also necklaces I had given as gifts in the past, bringing back memories and a sense of nostalgia. Among the shelves of contract documents, I found a white envelope labeled "For Anna, open in case of something happening." What's this? A letter for me? Gently, I opened it to find several sheets of letter paper, the first of which was labeled as a will. Surprisingly, not from my mom but from my dad. As I hurriedly read through it, it contained something I never expected. It mentioned how he thought of me as his true daughter, even though I was my mother's child from another relationship. And that in the event of something happening to him, half of his estate was to be inherited by my mother and the other half by me. Dad. I had no idea you thought of me that way. I hadn't anticipated such a letter. When my mom remarried my dad, I was still in elementary school. Suddenly having a stranger come into our lives, it took a while before we could communicate well. Meanwhile, my dad, unfazed, took me out to various places and played with me at home, treating me kindly, but I always kept a distance in my heart because we weren't blood related. But reading this letter now, I felt as if a gaping hole in my heart was being filled, spreading a warm feeling throughout. At the same time, I felt a sense of divine retribution against John for all his selfish actions, and it was quite satisfying. That's it, I thought, pulling out my phone from my pocket to take a picture of the letter's contents. After all he put me through, it was my turn to have the last laugh. With that thought, I immediately sent the photo to John, hoping to show off. I half expected to be blocked, but to my surprise, he read the message immediately and called. At first, I ignored his persistent calls, but eventually, I answered. Hello, John? Hello? What do you mean, hello? What's with this will? You said you were just a stepchild and that the inheritance would be divided among your dad's siblings, didn't you? John yelled, complaining to me. I thought so too at that time. Today, when I went to my parents' house to sort through their things, I just happened to find that will. I had no idea Dad thought that way. Talk about a windfall. My words seemed to fan the flames of John's anger, and he began to yell even more. This is fraud. You must have lied because you didn't want to give me the money, right? If that's the case, I have a right to that inheritance too. Right to inheritance? We got divorced yesterday, remember? Or did you forget already? Damn it. I'm not giving up on that inheritance. If you don't give me that money, I'll storm over to the house. John even resorted to threats. But there's no reason for me to give John any inheritance. Enough with the nonsense. You were the one who agreed to a divorce and waived any claim to assets just yesterday. And what did you say? that getting away from me was worth it. The divorce papers have been processed, we're strangers now. You won't get a penny of the inheritance. Looks like you rushed the divorce and lost out, truly pitiful. Hearing my words, John was yelling something, but realizing that spending any more time on him was a waste, I quickly hung up and set my phone to block his calls. I carefully put the letter back in my bag to make sure I wouldn't lose it and went back to sorting through the belongings. Memories kept surfacing with each item I found, pausing my work, but by dusk, I had mostly finished sorting everything. Leaving my parents' house, I got into my car, but recalling the conversation with John, I made a call to a certain place before heading back home. When I arrived, true to his word of storming over, there was John, filled with rage, waiting for me. You sure took your time cleaning up. Well, yeah. It took a while to find all the documents and stuff. So, what do you want? I stared John down, trying not to be intimidated, and kept the conversation going to buy some time. Don't play dumb. It's about the inheritance. You brought back bank books and stuff, right? Just give them to me and I won't do anything. I don't want to be here a second longer than I have to. John's face, happy when he left for his affair partner's place yesterday, had changed to one of exhaustion. And he looked restless, constantly fidgeting. I told you on the phone, we're strangers now. There's no reason for me to give you any inheritance. And why are you so desperate anyway? John's expression fell as if I hit a sore spot. And he stopped yelling, starting to talk about what happened yesterday. Actually, when I went to Alice's place yesterday and told her I wouldn't be getting any inheritance, she kicked me out, saying she had no use for someone without money. I thought I had some savings, but my account was empty. I barely have any cash on me. Even my next paycheck will be gone with the credit card payments. That's why I need the inheritance split now. Otherwise, I don't even have a place to sleep tonight. So, that's why. It all made sense now. John had absolutely no financial cushion. Moreover, he owed me alimony for his affair. It was clear what kind of life awaited him. Look, I was wrong. Marrying you for money, the affair, I apologize for everything. Let's start over, otherwise, I can't make it from here. That's not my problem. The one who misunderstood and splurged was John, right? Please! We should have talked more about the divorce. You think we can still make it work, don't you? Of course not. I can't live with you anymore. Still, John wouldn't back down and kept trying to persuade me, but my mind was already made up. Frustrated by my refusal, John was about to raise his hand to me when a police officer, who had been patrolling the area, came over. We heard yelling from down the street, "What's happening here?" Yes, the person I had called before returning home was the police. Knowing that John was lurking around my house, I had asked for a patrol just in case, reporting a suspicious person. The police, having witnessed John about to hit me, immediately took him to the patrol car for questioning. Let go. I'm her husband. We're not done talking. No, ex-husband. He's a stranger to me now. Please take him away. I was saved in the nick of time. After receiving a stern warning, John was quickly released, but since then, he has not loitered near my home, and I've regained peaceful days. Rumor has it, John's affair partner was a colleague from the same company, and they were both fired for violating company compliance. I don't know what they're doing now, but they must be living in poverty. A fitting end for someone blinded by greed. Though I've lost both my parents and divorced my husband, leaving me alone, I'm trying to live positively. I hadn't been able to go because I wasn't in the mood, but I've resumed my golf lessons. I've been praised more during lessons, and I'm grateful to my dad for giving me such a great hobby, enjoying my days filled with fulfillment. Thanks to the lessons, I've made friends and found more reasons to smile. As for the inheritance, I haven't squandered a penny and still have it saved in my account. I'm determined not to end up like John and am living a prudent life. Today is a beautiful sunny day, perfect for golf. Holding my dad's putter, I enjoy golf amidst nature. Every time I hold the putter, I feel like my dad is always with me, encouraging me. And I'll continue to live with a smile, cherishing the precious memories my parents left me.